Hi, everybody, and thank you for watching, and hopefully also commenting on this presentation. My name is Christina Förster, and I'm a teacher educator and research assistant at the University of Hildesheim in Germany. To give you just a brief idea about what I'm going to talk, professional digital competence in teacher education is well established through frameworks such as the TETCs. However, these frameworks largely conceptualize technology use as linguistically neutral. This can become challenging in multilingual and digitally mediated learning environments where language practices shape participation, access, and knowledge construction. This paper therefore addresses this gap. We conceptualize digital translanguaging as a dimension of professional digital competence of teacher educators and develop a translanguaging-sensitive survey instrument aligned with the TETCs. The goal is to make multilingual and multimodal dimensions of digital pedagogy sort of analytically visible and empirically measurable. Multilingualism has become a constitutive condition of contemporary education. In digital mediated environments, this is further intensified through multimodal and networked participation. At the same time, established frameworks for professional digital competence, such as the TETC, conceptualize technology use in largely linguistically neutral ways. Language is treated as a background condition rather than a dimension of professional competence. This creates a conceptual gap that becomes increasingly challenging in multilingual digital learning environments. Translanguaging provides a theoretical lens for addressing this gap. It conceptualizes language use as repertoire-based meaning making rather than as the use of clearly bounded language systems. So it's not code switching, but a way more fluid and dynamic practice. This translanguaging perspective foregrounds the dynamic and situated nature of linguistic practices. And very importantly, translanguaging is also understood as an equity-oriented and decolonizing approach. Language practices are not neutral, but shaped by institutional norms and power relations. Digital translanguaging extends this perspective into digitally mediated environments. Meaning making becomes inherently multimodal and trans-semiotic. Digital tools enable new forms of participation, collaboration, and identity work. At the same time, research shows that digitalization does not automatically transform linguistic norms. So, without explicit pedagogical framing, monolingual assumptions persist. This tension becomes particularly visible in teacher education. Pre-service teachers often express positive orientations towards multilingualism and translanguaging. However, they report uncertainty regarding the pedagogical legitimacy and also the feasibility of translanguaging. These uncertainties are shaped by institutional norms that continue to privilege monolingual assumptions. As a result, translanguaging remains peripheral despite its recognized relevance. The TETCs framework provides a comprehensive model of teacher educators' professional digital competence. It includes domains such as modeling, instructional design, assessment, and also leadership and advocacy. Teacher educators are conceptualized as second-order teachers. Existing survey instruments operationalize these competencies. However, they focus primarily on pedagogical, organizational, and ethical dimensions. Despite their breadth, TETC-based approaches do not explicitly operationalize multilingualism. Language remains implicit. This can present a challenge because digital learning environments are multilingual by default. As a result, there is no systematic way to measure translanguaging-related teacher educator competence in digital learning environments. In order to address this gap, the study is guided by one overarching question, namely, how can digital translanguaging be conceptualized and operationalized within the TETCs framework? And our two research questions therefore address, firstly, the identification of relevant aspects, and secondly, their systematic mapping onto TETC domains. Our study follows a design-based research approach. Design and empirical inquiry are combined iteratively in authentic educational contexts in teacher education. This study here follows a conceptual and instrument development design. First, theory-informed synthesis identifies core aspects of digital translanguaging. Second, these aspects are mapped onto all 12 TETCs. Third, this mapping informs the development of a survey instrument with TETC-aligned scales and items. Digital translanguaging is conceptualized as the agentive use of an integrated semiotic repertoire. Meaning making is multimodal and digitally mediated. Research distinguishes between teaching and learning on the one hand and social dimensions. A key factor is teacher educator expertise in coordinating linguistic and multimodal resources. Four core aspects of digital translanguaging related competence could be identified. These include pedagogical design for multilingual participation, then orchestration of tools and modalities. Thirdly, the critical and ethical framing of language use. And lastly, agency and identity sensitive support by teacher educators. Together, these aspects define digital translanguaging as a multidimensional professional competence. We then systematically mapped these core aspects onto all 12 TETCs. The mapping operates at the level of individual competency aspects. And quite importantly, no new domains are introduced. Instead, translanguaging is specified within the existing TETCs framework. The mapping results in a survey instrument consisting of 12 scales. Each scale corresponds to one TETC and includes 4 items. In total, the instrument comprises 48 self-report items. It operationalizes professional competence in terms of multilingual, multimodal, and digitally mediated meaning making. Please check out the paper here in Academic Expert for more detail. Compared to existing instruments, this approach provides a more differentiated operationalization to investigate digital translanguaging practices of teacher educators. Rather than single item measures, it uses multi-item scales derived from competency aspects. With this approach, we hope to achieve increased conceptual granularity while maintaining alignment with the TETC framework. The key contribution lies in conceptualizing translanguaging as a dimension of professional digital competence. The study seeks to extend the TETCs without modifying the framework itself. This is quite important. It makes language-related dimensions analytically visible. That's the whole idea behind it. And it proposes a survey instrument for investigating teacher educators' competencies in multilingual digital learning environments. Of course, several obvious limitations need to be addressed. This study focuses on conceptualization and instrument development, not on implementation. Of course, we cannot provide empirical results at this point. With this instrument, we also rely entirely on self-report measures, which capture perceived competence of teacher educators, not so no actual performance-based data can be collected with this instrument. At this stage, also no empirical validation of the instrument is provided. However, future work in the upcoming semester will therefore include pilot testing and psychometric analysis. But we're, of course, super happy at this point about the opportunity to talk about the proposed instrument design as part of the journey here at the SITE2026. Thank you so much for your attention. We welcome feedback on both the conceptualization and the instrument design. Of course, the expertise from the SITE community is particularly valuable for us. And we're also more than happy if you want to get in touch for future cooperation or exchange. Thanks a lot.